Hey everybody, this is Salah and you're welcome to this exciting course on C Sharp. We are learning C Sharp step by step. As you know, we have been talking about the loops in C Sharp. In the last lecture, we covered the do while loop, and before that, we learned to code the while loop. And we also know that there are total four loops in C Sharp. The first two loops, like I said, while and do while, we have already covered, and it's now time for the third loop, which is for loop. The last loop on our list is for each loop, and I have already told you we will cover this loop later on because this loop works together with a collection like array, string, list, etc. So this lecture is all about learning the for loop. For loop is a very interesting and very useful loop in programming. So let's move on, learn the syntax and the execution order of the for loop. The for loop has an interesting syntax as well as it is a managed loop. Why do I call it a managed loop? I called it managed because for loop is controlled by three statements which decide the number of repetitions. That simply means when we work with the for loop, we mostly know the number of repetitions because we manage the repetitions using the statements, three statements. So let's start with the syntax of the for loop. Learn the syntax of the for loop as well as some important terms. For loop also has a reserved word for, and right after for, we put two small parentheses like this. And after the parentheses, we put loop body or the loop block using the curly braces. And inside the curly braces, we write the code to repeat. Now, come inside the small curly braces. So, what we know from the last couple of lectures when we learn the while and the do while loop, both the loops have these small parentheses in their syntax where we write a simple condition, right? So, we simply write a condition inside these small parentheses when we work with the while and the do while loop. But the case is different with the for loop. So instead of a single condition, for loop actually requires three statements inside these small parentheses. The first statement is actually called initialization. We know the term initialization. Create a variable and initialize it with a value simply means initialization. The second statement inside the for loops parenthesis is condition, and we know what a condition is. We create a condition using the relational and logical operators. And the last statement, the third statement inside the for loops parenthesis is increment. So this is the pure syntax of the for loop. It starts with the reserved word for. It has its code block or the loop body. And inside the parentheses, we usually write three statements: initialization, condition, and increment. So let's make this loop functional by putting the real statements here. Initialization. Here we create a variable and initialize it with a value. Let's say I create a variable name is j, and I initialize it with the value 0. This variable j here is local variable. It cannot be used outside of this loop. This variable also called loop variable. So j is loop variable as well as local variable. Now I want to create 10 repetitions. So I need to write a condition. And the condition should be something like j less than 10. So as long as the value of the j is less than 10, our loop will repeat itself. And after the condition, we have increment. We can also code decrement if we wanna code a loop that goes backward. But at this moment, I am going to code the increment by one using the increment operator. Now we have coded a for loop which is functional and will give us 10 repetitions from the value of j 0 to 9. Inside the loop where we repeat our code, we will simply write a write line with the text hello. Now before we run this application and check the output, we first need to understand the execution order of this loop. So what will happen here, as program control comes here, it finds a loop, a for loop. So as the loop is detected by the control, it will then come inside the small parenthesis where we have these three statements. Now, inside the parenthesis, the control will first create a variable j and initialize it with the value 0. And right after that, evaluate the condition. The value of the j is 0 and 0 is less than 10 and the result is true. As the result of the condition becomes true, we will get a repetition. Our control will come down and execute the code that we have in the for code block of for body. So we will simply get first repetition and then something interesting will happen. Our loop will go upward again. When the loop will go up again, it will totally ignore the initialization part. It will actually make an increment in the j variable. So the value of the j will be increased by 1 and right after that the condition is evaluated once again. So before the second round the value of the j should be 1 and 1 is still less than 10. The condition is true. That means we are going to get another repetition. And after the repetition, our loop will go up again and once again increase the value of j. So after the second increment, the value of j will become 2. 2 is still less than 10. This condition will return us a true value and that means there will be another repetition. So this cycle will continue the same way until the value of the j becomes 10. When the value becomes 10, this condition gonna evaluates to false. That means no more repetition and our control will move further down there. So this loop is very interesting and very well managed by these three statements. The only thing to remember here is that this initialization part is executed only once before the first repetition. After the first repetition, our loop will go in this direction. Increment, condition check, repetition. Increment, condition check, repetition. Now we know the syntax of the for loop plus the execution order of the for loop. Let's run the program and check the output. And so you see the output. The string hello world is printed 10 times in the console. Let's move on and learn more about this loop. Like I said earlier, this loop is very well managed by its statements. And most of the time, we know the number of repetitions, like in our case, right? We coded like that. We knew the number of repetitions should be 10. So we can manage this loop in different ways. Let's say I can start the repetitions from the number 5 instead of 0 and will take it up to the 50. So the value of j will start from 5 and here it will get incremented until it is under 50. So we are going to still get 10 repetitions. Value of j from 5 to 14. We can also change the increment. Instead of increment by 1, we can make it increment by 2 like this. Now the value of the j is increased by 2 after every repetition. And that means we are going to get 5 repetition instead of 10. So let's run the program and check the output. And here you see the output. The hello string is printed 5 times. So we are getting 5 number of repetitions. Right? So for loop is in our control. We decide the number of repetitions and the increment order. Let's now reverse the changes and see how do we utilize the loop variable inside the loop. Like I said, j is a loop variable. You can have any other name here, for example, row or column, right? It's just a name to the variable. So j is a loop variable and j is available inside the loop. So we can simply print the value of the j to see its value. By printing the loop variable in the console, we can study how the value of the j was incremented after every repetition. So let's run the program and you will see the output like 0, 1, 2 up to 9. And here you see the output. The value of the j starts from 0 and the last value is 9. As the value became 10, the loop condition evaluated to false and we left the loop, right? The loop variable value is an important value. When we will learn the collection, then you will see how do we utilize the loop variable to handle the collections. But at this time, we can use this loop variable to print number tables. We can write an interesting program. So let's see how do we utilize the loop variable to print number tables. You will also learn some important variations. So I'm going to create a variable here, an integer variable with the name table. And let's say I want to create a table of 5. And now in the right line, we just need to create a table string. Let's create a table string like this. So as I run the program, you will see the multiplication table of 5 in the console. We can also do a manual compilation. In the first repetition, the table value is constant, which is 5. Here comes a string, multiplication string, and the value of j is 0. So 5 multiplied by 0. We are not doing the multiplication here. This is just a string value. Multiplication is done here. Here comes the result. 5 multiplied by 0 becomes 0. In the second repetition, the table value is constant, which is 5. The value of j is 1. We are not doing any multiplication here. This is just a string. We are doing multiplication here. So 5 multiplied by 1. Here comes the value 5. And it will continue until the value of j becomes 9. But we want the multiplication table up to the value of 10. So I can change the condition here. Instead of less than, I can put less than or equal to 10. Or you can simply increase the value to 11. The both will give the same result, but I think this one is more readable. So now the value of j will increase from 0 to 10. And once it becomes 11, the condition becomes false. So let's run the program and see the multiplication table in the console. And here you see the beautiful multiplication table, and you see the value of j goes from 0 to 10. Now here we can do another variation. We can do another twist. We can also control the table length using a variable. At this time, we are using a constant number 10. We can replace this constant with a variable. Let's say we create another variable which is called table length and put a value 10 to it. And now we can replace the number 10 with the variable table length. If I run the program, we will get the same result. But when I change the value, let's say the table length is 15, we will get a different result. We will get a lengthy table up to the 15th. The multiplication table from 0 to 15. Let's run the program and check the output. And so you see the output. The value of j goes from 0 to 15. And if you want to print another table instead of 5, you just need to change the value here from 5 to 9. Now I will say the multiplication table of 9 in the console. It's on the program. And so you see the output in the console. Now here we have multiplication table of 9. You can see 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, right? And what can we do more here? We can also start the table from 1. We know the multiplication with 0 is always 0, so we don't need to start our table with 0. Now the value of the j will start from 1 and go up to this limit, right? Table length. So my friends, that was the for loop we covered in this lecture, and I want you to do some more experiments. Code this loop and try to create some variations. For example, you can create a backward loop. So let me show you how to create a backward loop. We need to reverse everything here. We're going to initialize our variable from 10, and we would say until the value of 10 is greater than or equal to 1. Let's say I reverse everything, and instead of increment, I will do decrement here. Let's print the value of j in the console like this. So here we have a countdown loop. It will start from 10. You will see 10 first in the console. Then you're going to do a decrement. It will become 9. 9 is greater than or equals 1. Condition is true. You will see 9 in the console, and it will continue that way. So let's run the program and check the output. You will see a countdown from 10 to 1. And you see the countdown 10, 9, 8, 7, and up to the 1. That was the for loop we covered in this lecture. We will use this loop quite often in our coming lecture, but we are not done with this loop. In the next lecture, we will study the nested for loop. That means a for loop inside another for loop. It is called nested for loops. It's very important to understand the execution of nested for loops in order to solve some problems, like sorting problems where we sort the data, or to read out the multi-dimensional arrays. So we will be discussing nested for loops in our next lecture. I will see you there. Thanks for watching.